So I'm delighted to be joined by a friend of the show and a good mate as well, former colleague, Stamford Chidge from the Chelsea Fancast. How are you, mate?
I'm all good, mate. Although a little bit, I've still got the hump after yesterday.
Not happy with the point?
No, we should have had all three, mate. They are absolutely pony, mate.
Yeah.
I mean that is one of the worst Man United sides I've seen in over 30 years, right? And they've been pretty much like that all the time that Ollie's been in charge. How many times do you think we've beaten them, right, in the last 5 years, 4 years?
It's not very many now.
Exclude the cups. We beat them in the cups once. 2017 is the last time we beat United in a league match.
That's mad.
And they're one of the worst United sides I've seen, as I said, for over 30 years. It doesn't make any sense. It was like playing Burnley.
Especially when you got Michael Carrick in charge, who's like barely knows what he's doing. Bless him.
Yeah, I know. Well, he did a better job than Ollie, I think. But anyway, hey.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But anyway, mate, the last time we spoke, I look back at it. It was back in April. The Super League fiasco was at its peak. I think it was actually kicking off while we were chatting to you. And then Chelsea went on to win that game following that show, beat West Ham at London Stadium 1-0, thanks to a bit of a collector's item and a Timo Werner goal. And it gave Chelsea the edge in the race for the top four. I think we went 3 points clear of us in fourth. We slipped out of it a little bit. We were in a bit of a bad form, but now you're top of the league. One of the favourites to win the title. Reece James is your top goal scorer, weirdly enough, and all is well in West London, unfortunately. But what you making of it all at the moment? Because it seems pretty exciting.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was going to say, you could say, things have changed hugely for both of us, but no doubt we'll get onto that in a minute. But for us, I mean, blimey, winning the Champions League last season was just nuts. I mean, tempered a bit by the fact that a lot of us couldn't get over there, so I didn't get over there, for example. Take that out of it. It was just unbelievable because, I mean, I don't think there's any question that we didn't, at any stage deserve to get through and win ultimately. I think we were absolutely superb in the competition, particularly in the latter rounds when Tuchel came in. Beating Atletico Madrid, beating Real Madrid. I mean, you've got to be a decent team to do that. But so it was unbelievable. It was literally unbelievable because considering where we'd been back in January, everybody was really depressed that Frank had got the boot, And I think when Frank came in and we had that transfer ban, it's funnily enough actually, James, because I went to the Juventus match on last Tuesday, and that was the first time. For various work-related reasons, I'm finding it hard to get to midweek games at the moment. So that was the first Champions League game I have been to since we got absolutely humped by Bayern Munich 3-0. And that was in February 2020. And I remember walking out of that match thinking, bloody hell, we were taught a lesson there. And the gap between us and teams like Bayern Munich is massive. And I think it's going to take us a long time to get anywhere near to competing in this competition, let alone winning it again. And then what? 16 months later, we won it again. I mean, that's how nuts it is. And I mean, from there, Tuchel is just proving to be an absolutely top world-class manager. I mean, I think if he carries on this trajectory, he could go down as our greatest ever manager. I mean, obviously, you've got the argument about he's got to win a lot of stuff. Mourinho certainly has won a lot of stuff, but he just ticks all the boxes. He's something else. He really is. He's special.
With that in mind, then, Chidge, do you think Chelsea will go on and win it this year? Obviously, like you mentioned before, like dropping points against a poor Man United team doesn't help things when you've got City and Liverpool breathing down your neck. Do you think that this is the year that Chelsea win it?
I mean, it's going to be tough because the reality is that Man City are a very, very good side, even though they don't have a striker. Liverpool are seemingly back to where they were. So, they've got Alisson and Van Dijk back fit. A lot of their players that were out when they kind of tailed off last year, didn't they? They look to be back to their best. They're a very good side. So it's going to be really, really tough. I mean, I think we're certainly in with a good shout. We're good enough to win it. I think we've got a good enough side to win it, period. We've got a good enough manager to win it as well. I think it's going to depend on the small margins, isn't it? And I think things like, remember we've got a ridiculous amount of fixtures this season, because I've just announced today they've got the dates for the Club World Cup out in Qatar, I think, or the UAE. And that means, I think, February the 3rd to the 12th, that's going to be held. So we've got that. We'll have the African nations. So we're going to lose Edouard Mendy. That's going to be a massive miss for us. I think Ziyech may be going with Morocco. After yesterday, I'm not sure if that's much of a miss, but hey-ho. Edouard Mendy certainly would be, because he's a much better goalkeeper than Kepa. So there's that. And, I suspect we'll probably try and go deep in Europe again. So, there's a lot of matches to be played this year. So I think, number one, so fatigue, or more likely injuries could be, could screw us. I mean, we've got, I think, arguably, the deepest squad of any of the teams in the Premier League qualitatively. But even so, I mean, on Sunday against United, we seriously missed Ben Chilwell. He's going to be out certainly until the new year, maybe longer, and we missed N'Golo Kante. So, if you get injuries to key players, I don't care how deep and good your squad is, you're going to miss them. And I think, that could screw us up. But we're certainly good enough to win it.
Yeah, no, I think you are. There's two players I want to talk about, Chidge. First up, Reece James. You mentioned him before. He's the top scorer this season. I wouldn't go as far to say that he's kind of almost come out of nowhere as a threat for Chelsea, but certainly this season he's been on a completely different level. What is it that Tuchel's done to Reece James's game in order to make him such a bit of a goal machine, if anything?
Well, I think the system's helped. Number one, I think that Tuchel certainly. I mean, it's interesting actually, because we were talking about this on the Fancast the other week, and much as I hate to give any praise to Liverpool or Klopp, I just thought it was an interesting coincidence that, Liverpool, when they won the league, they did it because they had an excellent goalkeeper, world-class goalkeeper. They had one of the best central defenders in the world in Van Dijk. They had two really, really good young attacking wing-backs, really. I mean, I know that they're full-backs, but Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold get forward. They create a lot. They certainly get a lot of assists. They can score goals. And they got these three very fluid front three. You couldn't say they have a proper, what you and I might call a traditional number 9. They've got three very fluid strikers who interchange, who are quick. And you look at Chelsea, and they've got Edouard Mendy in goal, who I think is a world-class goalkeeper, hugely underrated, actually, by most of the media, weirdly. You've got Thiago Silva, who I mean, honestly, he's one of the best defenders I've seen play at the Bridge. This guy is phenomenal. Phenomenal the way he reads the game. I think he's 37 anyway. We've got Silva in the back, but I mean, all the defense is very good. You've got, you've got Reece James and Ben Chilwell as the wing backs, and you potentially, I mean, if you've got Havertz playing or Mount or Pulisic or Hudson-Odoi, you've got three very fluid attacking players up front. It's a very similar system. Of course, they both managed at Borussia Dortmund, so maybe that's why there is a similarity. But the reality is that what I think Tuchel has realised is that the way that teams are so well organised now defensively, you've got to think about doing it a different way. And one of the best ways to attack teams, I think, is using our wing backs. And you will quite often find either Reece James or Ben Chilwell, quite often they're the furthest up the pitch. They're even higher than what you would call the traditional number 9, or they're the spare man. So Chilwell's often, when a ball comes across, he's on the end of a second ball to ping it in, as is Reece James. I mean, Newcastle away, good example of that.
Yeah.
So they're allowed to get a lot farther forward. They're almost auxiliary strikers in that respect. The other thing that they do, which is really interesting, is that you'll often see them coming inside a lot. So, whereas you would expect, in a sense, Hudson-Odoi, for example, or Ziyech to be much further forward and wider than them, playing almost like wingers, what happens is they'll swap round. They don't really play like that, because they actually do play far more inside the likes of Hudson-Odoi and Ziyech. But, Chilwell and or James will come inside a lot more. And I think that makes it really hard to defend against, because most teams will defend against wing-backs by putting their wing-backs on them.
They're playing more like inverted wing backs, don't they?
Yeah, basically, in a way. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The other player I wanted to chat to you about, Chidge, and West Ham fans kind of moan and groan about this, but you can't get away from it, unfortunately, is Declan Rice. The rumours have died down a little bit, but he is almost hit another level again this season. He keeps getting better and better for both club and country. He's with West Ham's form at the moment. There is an argument that perhaps we don't need to sell him. He might not want to leave because there's a bit of a project going. But no doubt there is interest from Chelsea still. Do you think that, given his price tag still going to go up, do you think Chelsea are still in a position to warrant paying over 100 million quid for him? And does he fit into Tuchel's system, do you think?
Good questions. I mean, he certainly would fit in to Tuchel's system because I think Declan Rice is a phenomenal player. Yeah. I really, really do. I mean, I don't think it's hard to find a natural replacement to N'Golo Kante because he's such a one-off. I mean, there is nobody else like him in the world. I don't think you can play the way that he does. I mean, you could say the same of Jorginho. He's one of a kind in that respect. When I was talking about Tuchel modelling how he plays on Klopp and Liverpool, what I forgot to mention is that at the heart of that you've got two chaps who are, I don't think they will win the Ballon d'Or tonight, but they've been nominated and tipped quite heavily to have a chance of winning it. That's in our midfield, But Declan Rice is a phenomenal player. I mean, I'd have him, I'd cut my arm off to get him. I really, really would, because I think he brings so much defensively and offensively. He's a good player. So yeah, Tuchel would accommodate him very happily, no doubt. What I would say though is, would the club? I mean, I think you basically priced him out of the market when we came sniffing around in the summer. I think they really wanted him, but I don't think they wanted him at that price. And I wonder if there's something else. The interesting thing is we've got Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who's now getting much more game time in midfield. Now he offers something that Jorginho and Kante don't really offer. I mean, he's a real unit, and he's got a huge amount of skill, and he can run with the ball and actually run at a defence, taking it out of midfield. We don't really have a player like that. And then waiting in the wings, we've got Billy Gilmour, who can do the same job as Jorginho, and I would say give him time, arguably better. I mean, that guy can run a game, and that's what Jorginho does for us at the moment. You've also got Conor Gallagher waiting in the wings, who's probably the closest player I've seen since Frank Lampard finished to him in style. A proper old-fashioned box-to-box midfielder who can finish and score goals. So, I mean, you've kind of, with Billy Gilmour, you kind of keep to the same. With Conor Gallagher, you go a very different way. I mean, arguably, he would be much better in a 3 in midfield. So it's going to be interesting options-wise. I mean, I think a lot of us kind of saw Declan Rice as the obvious candidate to replace Kante, because Kante is 30 now. So he's, got a few more. I mean, he's injury-prone already. No surprise, because he just absolutely goes for it in every match. So, maybe Rice is the natural successor to Kante, but they're very different players, James. That's the reality. But I mean, you could have Rice and Jorginho in that too, and it would work, or Rice and Gilmour in that too, and it would work happily.
It's just a question of whether Roman Abramovich should be up for spending. Well, I mean, it's probably going to be about 120 million at this rate.
Well, that's a lot of money to pay for a midfielder, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lads, the holidays have come early this year as our partners Manscaped have the gift that keeps on trimming, with a whole host of male grooming products on offer, from the Lawnmower 4.0 to their new refined cologne and everything in between. Manscaped have got everything you need to make sure you're looking more Michael Bublé and less Santa Claus this holiday season. And in the spirit of Christmas, you can get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with the code WeAreWestHam. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with the code WeAreWestHam, all one word. Now is the perfect time to get yourself or a loved one the gift of shaving. I am talking about the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. The Performance Package 4.0 is the best in the business. This hygiene bundle includes the Lawnmower 4.0, the Weed Whacker, a pair of boxer shorts, a travel kit, and liquid formulations.
Yeah, for those who don't know, the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer is waterproof with advanced skin-safe technology to reduce nicks and cuts, and it even has a light to help with all those little dark spots down below. And then there's the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer with its proprietary skin-safe technology that helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs. Also in the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0 is Crop Preserver, which is a spray that protects against chafing. the crop reviver, which will ensure things down there remain fresh at all times. And then there's the foot duster, which will make even the ugliest of feet, like mine, look and smell lovely, and much, much more. And to top it all off, you even get a shed travel bag so you can carry all your precious Manscaped products in style everywhere you go. So to get your hands on a Manscaped Performance Package 4.0 and to see all the other lovely male grooming products they have on offer ahead of the festive season, head over to manscaped.com today. And remember, get 20% off and free shipping with the code WeAreWestHam. That's WeAreWestHam, all one word, WeAreWestHam. It's 20% off, free shipping at manscaped.com. So go on, make Santa proud and cement your place on his nice list this Christmas by joining the Manscaped movement. Let's look ahead to this weekend then. We've got a game in between. I think Chelsea play Watford. We're hosting Brighton. But what have you made of West Ham of late, first and foremost? Because we're still rubbing shoulders with the top four. 2 years on from Moyes coming back, he's completely transformed us and continues to transform us. What have you made of us? Is there an element of maybe worry going into this game, given the form that West Ham are in?
Yeah, because you're a really good side, I mean, I was thinking. I mean, I've got quite a soft spot for West Ham. I know that's sacrilegious to say as a Chelsea supporter, but I've got a lot of mates who are West Ham fans, and I've kind of grown up with their pains, and I kind of relate to that, having followed Chelsea for a long time. But I mean, on the one hand, I'm really delighted to see they're doing so well. I think it's a really good testament to what happens if you hire a decent manager and give him some time and let him do what he does best. And, fair play to David Moyes, because, he had a torrid time at Man United. I think he was treated really badly there, although he was on a hiding to nothing. And I think he's done brilliantly. And he's proved again that he's actually a very, very good manager. And he's assembled a really good squad of players. You've got some really, really high, quality players. Souček, and Antonio, to name but two. And, of course, Declan Rice. But there are many others in that side as well. So you've got a good squad, some quality players, and you're playing really, really well. And I think you will come fourth actually this year, because you're way better than any of the other chasing pack. I mean, Spurs are horrible at the moment, I'm delighted to say. Arsenal are very much in transition. Leicester, mate, they're hopeless, judging by how we walloped them the other week. Who else have you got kicking around at the moment? Brighton, are they really going to be there at the end of the season? I don't think so.
Nah.
So, I think, fourth place, and United, they need a lot more than 6 months of Rangnick to get anywhere back to where they were. So I reckon, you're a better side than them easily. So I think fourth spot is yours to lose, right? So go on then, go on.
No, I was just going to say, fourth spot would be lovely, but you mentioned earlier about from Chelsea's point of view, you could win the title, but injuries to key players could prevent it. That's West Ham's problem at the moment, is that top four is attainable, but we've got such a thin squad, and no backup striker to Antonio. If Rice gets injured, then we've got Mark Noble to come in, or an inexperienced Alex Crowell. So we've got a similar problem in that lose one or two key players and we're in trouble.
Yeah. Well, you can say that of a lot of teams. Look at Liverpool last season. You take Van Dijk out of that side and Henderson, and they're not the same side. So I think it depends who it is, doesn't it? But you can say that for everybody. I still think, given no injuries, I think top four or fourth spot is yours to lose. So yeah, I was thinking actually, funnily enough, when you and Will got hold of me today, I started thinking about the game on Saturday, and I was thinking, cool, yeah, that's going to be a really tough game. And so far this season, in the tough games that we've had against people that we're challenging, let's call it the top four at the moment. So we lost to City 1-0, and we were made to look pretty ordinary by them, to be fair. I think Pep was so determined to beat us because we'd had the edge on them over last season. He just did everything. He really thought about it, and we were outclassed that day. Liverpool, I think, was one of our best displays of the season, because we beat them and Anthony Taylor. So we basically kept arguably the most potent side in the league out for 45 minutes, and they didn't look close to scoring. It was one of the best defensive displays I've seen by 10 men ever. It was phenomenal. So that was all right. But I mean, and again, we picked up 1 point. And I mean, who else have we played who's anywhere near us? Well, we haven't really. I mean, Leicester we demolished. You would have thought they were, going to be contenders. Spurs we wiped the floor with as always. But they're not really contenders. I mean, United. I mean, as I said, that was most definitely 2 points dropped on Sunday because they're so pony. It's not true. But I don't think they're going to be challenging. So this I think after City and Liverpool is actually going to be one of our toughest matches. And then it's West Ham, and then it's over there, and then there's everything that goes with the rivalry that we've had for years and years and years. And the other thing I was thinking of was, bloody hell, you're hopefully going to be able to answer this for me. But I was thinking, when was the last time, we played West Ham, and there was like really something on it in terms of league places, really something on it that West Ham were really pushing towards the top. And we were going to be in for a really, really tough match, I mean, I'm trying to think maybe under Harry when Di Canio was there, because you did pretty well, didn't you, that season? You top 5, weren't you, or something like that?
Yeah, it's pretty about time. I mean, last season's probably the closest as well. I mean, particularly that game at London Stadium where we were both going for the top 4 then. But
yeah.
But before then, it probably was under Harry Redknapp with Paolo Di Canio. In between now, I mean, I was actually looking at the recent sort of head-to-head form between the two of us, and so you did the double over us last season. We did the double over you the season before that, and I actually thought that Chelsea had a bit of a monopoly over us in recent years, but
no,
actually, got it here. Chelsea had won, so you won both last year. We won the 2 the year before that, and then you'd only won 3 of the 9 meetings in all competitions before then. Do you see that playing, that sort of recent head-to-head sort of having a role to play this weekend? And
well,
go on.
Well, no, I think it's interesting because you see, I knew that. Well, I didn't know exactly, but if you'd have asked me the question, I would have said, "Oh yeah, I mean, you're quite a bogey side for us," and I think that feeds back into what I was saying, because usually you're nowhere in the league. You're either middle of the table with nothing to play for, or worried about relegation. We're usually going for the title or top 4. And then when we turn up and play you always turn up like peak 1970 Brazil, because it's Chelsea and you want to get one over on us, and invariably you do, whether it's home or away. I mean, I remember sitting with a mate of mine at Stamford Chidge a couple of years ago, but I don't know, 3-4 years ago now, maybe. It was what's his name? The ex-Man United player, the little P, Hernandez.
Chicharito,
yeah. And I just knew he was going to score. And he did. He scores like a last-minute equaliser. And I just, there we go. I said to my mate Tony, classic West Ham. We both looked at each other when he came on. He said, he's going to score, isn't he? And he did. And that's classic West Ham. So I think you've been doing that to us for years. But that's why I'm intrigued by this weekend, because, I mean, I wouldn't say you go into it as favourites, but I'd be very interested to see what the bookies are making of this, because you're at home, We've, we didn't do so well this weekend. I think, put it this way: normal season, Chelsea would be absolutely nailed on favourites to win. It won't be like that on Saturday, that's for sure. But I wonder if that might play on West Ham. They may be expected to get a result, maybe expected to do well.
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, we've lost the last 2 in the league. Okay, granted, one was against City at the weekend in what was pretty much the North Pole in the first half in particular.
Yeah, that was mad, wasn't it?
Couldn't even see the lines.
Why did that game carry on?
I don't know. The second half was all right. It stopped snowing and they cleared it half time. But first half, you couldn't see the lines on the pitch. It was silly. But yeah, I don't know. I still think Chelsea would be favourites given the form you're in, where you are on the league table, and the fact we've lost our last 2. I think Chelsea probably edge it with their bookies. But before I ask you for a score prediction, Chidge, just one final question: If you're David Moyes, what part of Chelsea are you looking to exploit? Any weaknesses that you would be looking to exploit on Saturday?
Well, again, I think it depends on the team that he puts out, and of course, much of that will depend on what happens on Wednesday against Watford. We know that Chilwell will be out, and I know that that's a huge miss for us. So the obvious thing is you target Alonso. because Alonso's lack of pace down the left. I know we've got Rudiger to cover, and he might have Hudson-Odoi to bail him out. But you would target him. I would flood the midfield. I think a lot of teams that have done well against us have Villa, for example, when they came to us, they ended up losing 3-1. But I tell you what, mate, that was never a 3-1. They looked really good then, and they had us sussed out because they had 3 in midfield, and they bossed the midfield. They ran the game, and we play with 2 in midfield effectively because the wing backs are just herring down the wing all the time. Okay, they have to hair back too, but that's the other thing. That's why we're so defensively strong, because that back 3 becomes a back 5 very quickly in transition. But 3 in midfield up against 2, you can dominate the midfield. So I think Moyes might look to do that. But I think that the 2 biggest issues are this. We are so hard to score against. United only scored on Sunday because Jorginho had a brain fart. They had 3 shots on target in the entire game. Okay, they had absolutely no ambition, so that didn't help. But, we are so hard to score against. So, number one, you've got to score against us. And I think the other side of that coin is that you've got to hope that we're as profligate as we have been for the last few years. Sunday was an absolute prime example of that. We just don't have anybody who knows how to finish. It's astonishing. Hudson-Odoi, Werner, Ziyech, you name it. They were, it just drives me out the wall because they're just so wasteful. And that's the trouble with Chelsea. We don't kill teams off. We get 1-0 up and we're absolutely bossing games. But you've been around long enough, like I have. 1-0, even 2-0, you're only a goal away and the game changes. And the side's still in it. And that's the thing that really does worry me about Chelsea. That's why they're not the finished article yet. They're bloody good, but they're not the finished article yet. But if we get a goal or 2 up and we really fancy it, then we're a hell of a team. But we just don't put our chances away, James.
Yeah, it reminds me of a couple of years ago when you were 2-0 up against us at London Stadium. We came back and won 3-2. That was sort of right at the beginning of the pandemic, wasn't it? But let's get a score prediction from you then, Chidge, ahead of Saturday afternoon.
Well, it's going to be a good one, isn't it? It's so hard this far out, and without the game, as I said, a lot will depend on what happens against Watford, injuries wise. I have to say, I'm a bit. Having seen us, you kind of boss the game against a United who had no ambition but not put them away, and I think when it boils down to it, what we missed most really was N'Golo and Kante and Chilwell, because I think Chilwell and Reece James have been absolutely on fire recently, and it's just completely up the ante in terms of how we play. Now, Chilwell's not going to be playing. I don't know about Kante. We'll see. If he's playing, then I think that changes a lot for us. And I think a lot will depend on who's up front too, because I think when you've got Havertz playing and, if you've got Hudson-Odoi, Havertz and Mount, we're a very different proposition than when we have Hudson-Odoi, Werner and Ziyech. Pulisic could do a good job as well instead of Mount. So, I would feel happier if, those 3 are playing. But, of course, Lukaku may be fit as well. So,
Which terrifies us, by the way. He loves a goal against West Ham.
Yeah, exactly. And, he's a wonderful striker. But I tell you what, mate, I think Chelsea are finding it really hard to get him to adapt to our system. And, he's been out injured for, 6 weeks or whatever. And we've looked far more fluent and far better without him because we're playing like we did last season, but with more confidence, with those 3 front players all interchanging and Havertz dropping back, making himself hard to mark, etc., etc., etc. And you see the problem we have, James, is that if Lukaku plays, he's a great striker and he's great at holding the ball up with his back to goal, but we don't have anybody running in from midfield to get on the end of balls that he's holding up and laying off. Yeah. We don't play that way. So we've got a few conundrums, but if we've got our best team on the pitch and we're up for it, I think we'll win. And I think actually we're more likely to win because we're so hard to score against. So it'll be really tight. I reckon a goal in it, 1-0, 2-1.
Nice. Well, I'll never predict us to lose a game.
Well, I never do Chelsea either, mate.
No. So even though my head might say otherwise sometimes, but I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw this week. I think with a full stadium, the fans are going to be up for it, and they've shown this season in particular that Liverpool game where we beat them 3-2 a few weeks back. I've not seen an atmosphere like it. So London Stadium is becoming a bit of a home for us. The atmosphere is getting better and better every game, so I think that might play a part on Saturday afternoon. But Chidge, always a pleasure, mate. Really appreciate you joining us. And all the best for the rest of the season.
Thank you. Yeah, and you too. And see you on Friday on our preview show, of course.
Yeah, happy to do it, mate, as always.
Yeah, looking forward to that. All right, mate. Good to see you.
You too.